rich history of the everyday person around you. Listen to people we know and stories we don't. Every Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. only on KDN Radio. People We Know and Stories We Don't is lovingly dedicated by the network in memory of Sarah Chana Bas Mendel. Mrs. Colbert, a blessed memory, was the secular principal of Yeshiva Beth Yehuda in Southfield, Michigan, and has touched the lives of hundreds of students, creating everlasting impacts upon them and their future generations. It is in her merit that we spread the beautiful stories of the everyday people and share them on King David Network, Judaism for ears, heart, soul. Okay, and I am here with Evelyn Goldfinger of TorahTron. How are you, Evelyn? Thank you so much for joining us on the show.
Thank you, David, for inviting me. I'm good. How are you?
Doing well, thank God. So, tell us a little bit about you.
About me. um, well, I run a Jewish educational theater company. As you mentioned, it's called TorahTron. It's actually started in my native Argentina in South America in 2007, I believe. And I moved to Miami. That's where I am now, 7 years ago. And so it shifted, it transformed, and now it's TorahTron, pronounced in the American style. And we're still bringing Jewish content through the performative arts to theater mostly, to kids and families, and also we have some shows for grown-ups, for adults with Jewish content. So that's
Okay.
one of the things I can tell you. I write. I love writing. I love writing plays, specifically for theater. I was a researcher not long ago, also in the field, um, and I also perform.
So, we'll get into TorahTron a little bit soon. What do you do in your spare time?
My spare time. Um, well, once upon a time, I was able to walk by the beach. Before these crazy times, I love doing that. I really enjoy reading and writing just for fun, not like because I have a deadline. Speaking with my loved ones, singing. Um, yeah.
Okay. So, how did TorahTron come about?
Oh, interesting question. So I've always felt these two strong passions that I had. One was theater. I studied musical theater and I worked a lot in children's theater back in Argentina, in Buenos Aires mostly. And my other passion was Judaism, that gift that was given to me, handed to me by my parents, my teachers, my family, my people, and all these beautiful values to share with the world. So I always wanted to combine them. Actually, my first experience was when I was a madrija. I was a counselor at we had youth groups, and then I believe I put together my first play, and then it evolved, and I was involved in several programs. One was at Hillel. We also have Hillel for college kids, and I directed actually there for 11 years an ensemble that performs, an amateur ensemble that performs for underprivileged children in Buenos Aires mostly. Um, for everybody, not specifically for Jewish children, but general issues and values through our plays. And that was one of the things that really got me started, because I wrote the plays and I also directed them. I didn't perform at first.
Okay. So what is TorahTron? Like, what is the goal of it?
So The goal is to, it's like a spark. It's like the shamash, I like to think. We bring, or I do one woman shows mostly nowadays, um, an artistic experience to children and families, if that's the case of the show. And even though it has jokes and songs and all these art, as you could say, it's all very rooted in our tradition. So everything that you can see there, that you can listen to there, my goal is to have an anchor that you can then go back to text, or maybe it's not right now, but maybe a few years from now, it's like, oh, okay, I remember this play in Noah's Ark, and they were for some reason fish arguing whether or not they were part of this story. Well, actually that's based on a midrash, right? So my idea is to present different levels. I love the Shrek quote, I think it's by the donkey, that says that ogres are like onions because they have layers. So it's the same thing, you have layers. And even when you see Shrek, or one of those shows or that movies, you can feel that there's a message for everyone. And it's a little bit like, the satyr and the four sons or four daughters or four kids that each one of them, you have to direct, you can give them options, so each one of them can take what they need at the moment that they need that. And maybe you can see the same show a couple of years later and the meaning changes because you've changed.
Right. Um, what are the general audiences that you have for these shows?
So mostly families. That's my main. Although I'm working on a one-woman show that I'm reworking it for adults. It's called Not Quite My First Shabbos, and it's more personal. It's my story, and it weaves storytelling, performance, and singing in Yiddish, in Ladino, in Hebrew, in Spanish, in English. Everything that touches my heart and that I've been singing, I get to do that because I'm also a cantorial soloist. So I sing quite a bit, not with this Miss Eve's hat. This is Miss Eve hat. This is the hat that I used to teach. And this is sort of my persona. Um, when I teach, that I do classes as a specialist in schools, usually in early childhood, that I teach Judaism through puppets. This is my puppet theater. I have here my green screen that I'm creating the videos with and bring all the magic. So that's one thing. And you asked me about the audience. So usually throughout the year, I perform a lot for early childhood places or synagogues, sometimes religious schools. It depends on the play, and camps. But now it's, nowadays we might need to shift that a little bit towards online experiences. So I'm working on that.
Right. So I noticed that you've been doing a lot more YouTube videos lately of the trip to Israel and the Passover Seder. Can you tell us about some of that experience of shifting it to
Yeah,
YouTube?
it was min hashamayim, like from heaven. I always wanted to do, I felt like I was able to create videos, but I didn't have the time nor the push. And this was a big push. And it was like, yeah, I'm doing this. And I think it was the first week when I stayed home, and some of the schools were asking, can you make a video? And I said, sure. But I wanted to take it a step further. So I wanted the videos to have interaction with the audience, to be able to, play with the camera, to be able to edit it in a very nice way, that they have like the green screen. And actually it was an accident. I didn't know that I could do that, like that my video program, editing program, was able to do that. I was so happy. I was like jumping of joy when I realized I was able to do that as well. I wanted to incorporate music. I play the ukulele, so, and I wanted all these puppets and the voices and the special effects, and I wanted the interaction to be able to ask the kids questions. So it evolved and it became, quite an interesting thing. Now, because I have my Latino heritage, well, not heritage, I am, right, Latin. To me, it was very important to also present these videos in my native tongue in Spanish, because I wanted to connect to the children of my friends and my families, all the people that I know, that they have kids, and I want them to be able to enjoy it as much as my students and the children of the families that are friends that we're friends with here. So everything, I make everything double. So I make everything in English, and then I make everything in Spanish. So it's not subtitle, it's not dubbed, it's a whole other video in Spanish. So everything you can choose. And even if you want just your kids to be immersed in a second language, you can choose to do that as well.
Okay. Wonderful. So you mentioned the show Not Quite My First Shabbat. Um, Before we watch the demo on that, can you tell us a
Oh,
little bit more about that?
wow, that's a surprise. Yes. So actually, I have two shows about Shabbat. Shabbat is my favorite day of the week, and it's my favorite Jewish holiday. And I'm very lucky because when people ask, "What's your favorite Jewish holiday?" you tend only to get to celebrate that once a year. To me, that is once a week, and it's very rooted in my story. When I was young, my family started doing celebrating Shabbat Friday night with other four families. There were four families in total, and it was a community. And each Friday night we will gather together and we will take turns in different houses. So one house had the Sephardic flavor, and the other one has, the modern flavor, and the kids we were the same age, so we would say the blessings together, and then we will sort of being divided up, sort of like camp. So our parents had a great time speaking with their friends and sharing. We had a beautiful time among friends, learning from them, sharing, and it was so beautiful. So Shabbat was always important to me. And I started this in Argentina. It was called Shalom Shabbat, and I played a lot with it. It was like, I think it was my hardest show because I was so much involved in emotionally. And for some reason, I never felt, I thought, okay, this was, this will be an ongoing process because I can never finish with this. But a few years ago, it came clear to me that it was actually two separate shows, one for grown-ups and adults, and one for children. I owed it to myself to make that distinction. So Shalom Shabbat split in two. One was the Shabbat Treasure, which is a one-woman show of which I based my book, of which I based my music album. That's brand new from last year, and now it's available in Spanish, which I'm really happy. And it's a very fun story, and I get to share that wonder of receiving the most special day of the week with the children, with the audience. And on the other hand, not quite my first Shabbat, which is more of a personal story, fantasized story, not based, it's not based on my true story necessarily, but part of it definitely. um, and it's about a woman who just got married, and she's welcoming Shabbat she's having her first Shabbat dinner, and her husband calls her that she has an extra 20 guests, and she has to figure it all out. So all women from her family, they come, and everyone is pulling her in different directions. The husband and Mama, who's very bossy, I take care of everything, and Bobby Goldie, who speaks Yiddish, and she's like, this character is so lovable, and she sings in Yiddish, and she's kvetching all the time, and she's complaining, but in a way, that adorable way. And she fights with Auntie Linda, that she's the Ladino flavor, and she's all spicy and all, let's make it Sephardic, and they argue, and you have jokes and some old stories that are brought in here to make the point of these ladies, and everybody sings. So it's a little bit of a schizophrenic, I guess, play in a very fun way. Um, and yeah, and very moving as well. I think the audience, they laugh, they cry, they sing along, and just really, the audience can really relate to those characters because they're part, um, archetypes, I guess, sort of, but also so real to us. I mean, it's like, oh yes, I know someone like Bobby Goldie, or I remember someone like Angelina. So yeah, now I have two separate shows, and I'm so glad I'm gonna share the demo.
All right.
I think it has part of one of the skits from Auntie Linda and Bobby Goldie.
All right,
Wow.
well, let's take a watch at the not quite my first Shabbat.
Yes. Good Shabbos, Kinderlach. Oh, I came from Poland when I was a little girl like you, Maidale. Oh, Ingale, you look so skinny. Oh, don't worry. Papi Goldie will fix you something to eat. Maybe some latkes? Oh, my son. I remember it from my shtetl, where I used to live in Europe years ago. I remember it well. Gedenče kinderlach, gedenče tajere, vos ihr neren du. Sorge noch amor, al caposalia, miraba en el cielo y en la estrellería, vino la luz santa en la llorería, que había de nacer Abraham Avinu. Ay, querida, really, you like my dress? Oh, but we have company, querida. Ay, salud que haya. Oh, you're so lucky you're here tonight because thanks to me, this house has the Sephardic flavor, you know. But first, let's sing all together. Ready? Go! Abraham Avinu, Padre querido. You try my food, you know. I'm the greatest cook. Oh, no, of course, Golde. You cook wonderful, Musher, of course. The truth is, I am a much greater. That's right. I cook much better than she does. Really, really, trust me. You don't trust me? It was like this. When Bobby Goldie gave me her potato knishes recipe, you know potato knishes? Yes. Oh, I prepared them with all of my love, you know. Yes, I did. I put it in raisins and almonds and even spices. Oh, querida, were the best potato knishes I have ever tasted. Un manjar riquísimo. Mwah! Delicious. Do you know what Goldie says to me when she tries them? Do you know? No? Do you know? She says, where is the potato? Oh, but as a Faradim, we no cook with potato, no. So the potato knishes, I had to fill them with rice, of course. Yes, of course. Come, Lynn, that's it. Since then, they don't talk about food anymore. No, they have found a new topic of conversation. Finding me a husband. So Auntie Linda says, novia que te vea. That's the phrase in Ladino that Sephardic Jews use to wish for young ladies who are happy to get married right away. And Bobby Goldie answers with a phrase in Yiddish that I think sums up all the other phrases in Yiddish. Do you know what she says? Let's say it together on the count of 3. It's 2 words, okay? Do you know? Do you have it? It starts with an O. Okay, all together on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. She says, Hoi vey! Shabbat Shalom, everyone!
Shalom, Shabbat. Shabbat Shalom.
Okay. So, that was not quite my first Shabbat.
Yes.
Okay, so you mentioned that that was more for the adults, and now we have something for the children. That started with the Shabbat Treasure, and then it became a CD and a show. Can you tell us about that?
Sure. So first it was the show, and then I wanted to connect in a different way to the audience, and I love writing, as I mentioned. So I wrote the story as a children's book, as a picture book, and I wanted to publish it, to get it to my audience and to my friends and to my students, and it was interesting because I really wanted to do that, and I explored it a little bit, and I said, okay, I'm going to do this myself. And so I learned, I taught myself how to do this. I had interviews with wonderful people who showed me part of the way, and part of the way I researched. And the funny thing is that I made it happen, and it actually became number one best-selling book in one of Amazon's category in children's book for Jewish holidays. It was very well received. And after that, I knew that the next step was to release a music album, which everybody can listen to it on. It's on Spotify, on YouTube for free, and if they wish to, they can also purchase it. Because I wanted the kids to have the whole experience and to have something that they can go back to. And I love children's book, and I thought it could be a good addition, you know. So when I perform, and I was lucky to be performing in some theater venues as well, because to me that's very important to try to keep that tradition alive, to welcome families, welcome children to the theater, and to have that experience. I have my treasure chest, and whoever wants to get a copy of the book, of the signed book, they get to open the chest, and it's all decorated, and they get to choose their treasures, sort of. So yeah, I don't know if that answers the question though.
It does. Um, why pirate themed?
Oh, because I really wanted the Shabbat Queen and the princess, so I wanted to create balance in the world. And I was thinking about, okay, so she wants to be the Shabbat. She talks about the Shabbat Queen, Eve, my character. She's named after me because I didn't know that was going to be a book. And by that time, my character was called Eve. My full name is Evelyn, actually. But people in Spanish, they call me Eve. It's a nickname. But in English, it's time I like, this goes way back when I would write to someone who speaks English an email, and I would sign Eve. They'd start calling me Eve. So that kind of that's how that happened. When I play with this idea, okay, you want to be the Shabbat Queen? Well, I'm the Shabbat pirate, because he takes the elements, and pirates they have that adventurous spirit. And what Leo is coming to in this story, Leo is the brother, to address is the fact that it's not all work, even getting ready for Shabbat, because sometimes, that's the feeling, oh my gosh, I need to finish, and I need to clean the house, and you get so stressed before the time that we're supposed to relax and enjoy. And so I guess Leo comes to remind us of that, and that's why he becomes the Shabbat pirate, because he takes the elements and he sort of forces Eve to play with him. But I guess there's a balance in between the two of them, and in between the concept of tzedek, of justice, and to be stern, and the way things should be, and the chesed, to be loving, and to have compassion, and to be a little bit more flexible and understanding. So I think that's the combination that I wanted to express through that.
Okay. Well, let's give
It's also
a
fun,
watch.
pirates are also fun, let's face
That
it, especially nowadays when they are not, a menace.
That's very true. Well, let's give a watch to the Shabbat Treasure demo and enjoy that as well.
Welcome, Shabbat Queen.
Okay. Definitely a very different atmosphere than the first demo. You can really see the difference of the creativity for the adults versus the kids. Um, what are some of the other stuff that you do with Jewish Educational Theater?
So as I mentioned, I teach my Shalom Stars classes. Usually they are in person, and it's it's definitely interactive, and it's a mix of Jewish content through singing, through movement, through puppets. It depends on the age of the kids. If they are younger, puppets may not speak, but if when they are older, puppets they have their own voice and they speak live. So I can't tell you how that works, but you don't see me move my mouth when they do it. So it's very special because they are sort of real in a very puppet way. um, so yes, it's education through the through the arts, through theater mostly, in a broad aspect.
Okay.
And they are the stars, they are the protagonists. So I start them always in a star position, and they start saying that we start by saying that they are the stars, they are the stars of our stories, of our class, because I want them to feel, I want them to be empowered, and I want the kids, the students also to really feel like they have a part in all of this, in all of our story. I always say that we are the guardians of this treasure that Judaism is, and it actually belongs to them. That's why we pass it to the next generation. So when we are teaching Judaism to kids, especially to kids, it's not like we are imparting wisdom. I think it's more like we're passing along this gift that actually belongs to them. So it's a great responsibility because it very much depends how you present that gift, that they get to appreciate it, to discover it and to appreciate it.
What would you say is your favorite aspect of the behind the scenes of making a show?
A theater show,
Yeah.
I love writing, as I said, creating and imagining possibilities. I love rewriting as well. That's when you get it's like you have a conversation with your past self, and you get to add more to that from behind the scenes. I love making props. I mean, it's not my profession, but many times, when there's no other way of doing things, or I don't have the collaboration, or I don't have the time, or I don't have the means, I end up doing lots myself. And yeah, I really like to get hands on and to create. I have like a huge Torah that I saw by hand. Back in Argentina, I saw by hand a beautiful tale of the whale for Jonah, and just imagining how to bring magic to the stage. I think, yeah, and rehearsing is fun too.
Um, what are some of the feedback that you've gotten from parents?
From what? From the shows, from the
From the whole concept.
Oh, okay. Wow. I'm very lucky because the feedback has been super positive. One friend was telling me, she sent me a picture, and she said they're watching the show for the 20th time today, and they love it. I really like the fact that I can share something that I think it's nutritious, especially nowadays we are in the coronavirus era, and kids tend to spend more time in front of screens. I mean, it might not happen because some parents are very stern, or kids are not used to that, so it's hard for them to connect. But there's a huge population that of kids that are spending, even at a younger age, tons of times in front of screens, between Zoom classes, online, whatever. And so for me to be able to provide something nutritious, something that it's taken care of, that I can say to a parent, this is a good product. If you see this, I mean, I'm not talking about Disney effects, but in terms of that it's healthy, that it's thoughtful, that a parent can share this with their kids, and it's a safe space. Or even if a parent, has to, maybe with an older kid, tune out for a second to, you know, attend life other than kids, that they are in good hands. And to me, that's very important. So I try to be very respectful and very mindful of that, because to me, that's an honor to be able to come to their homes through a screen in this case. One parent said to me, she said, I feel like a good parent when bringing my kid to your show, like I'm doing good parenting because of what I'm offering. Also, oh, someone just told me, a parent, you're like a magic wand, and it was a picture of the kid watching and I also get videos, and I don't post videos with faces because that's just me. I try to preserve that part of the kids. I respect people doing otherwise. When I post, it's someone from behind, and I have the permission of the parents. But I do get lots of videos of kids interacting, and maybe after the fact, playing, pretending that they are watching a music video or doing something, or a song that they learn. Some kids that they were doing the Im Tirtzu, that's how we traveled to Israel in my video. We traveled with the lev, with the heart, just like many people, and I tell them this, I share this with them, just like many Jews did for many generations, when it was very hard to get to Israel, and they were far away. I don't say galut, I don't say that they were in the diaspora, but even grown-ups can read that in parentheses, and we go Im Tirtzu, like the words of Herzl, and kids doing that after the show. I also get great comments from educators, which my colleagues, which is also very important. People recommending the show, people supporting the show or the videos. And yeah, that keeps me going. And sometimes when I said, oh my gosh, I've been doing almost a video a week, which is crazy because it takes so much time. And when I say, do I need to post something else? And then I remember the kids, I remember that this is something that, especially nowadays, is so good for them, that I want to offer my best. So I get back, I write, I rewrite, I record, I edit, and I make a little bit, I like to think, a little bit of magic happen, at least for a few moments.
So, what are some things that you're working on currently?
Currently, I've just finished editing my visit to the hotel video for Yom Yerushalayim. That's gonna be posted this week. And it's a mix. It has a little bit of the video of Israel, the second part, but we zoom in on the basic ways of tefillah, of prayer. I think that's also, I was talking with a colleague about this, how we do or we not talk to our kids about prayer and God and our relationship to God, especially in the more liberal world sometimes. And sometimes even with grown-ups doing tefillah. And so how to get these kids, again, how to hand that to them, how to open that door and say, this is a part of Judaism, big part. And so I talk about 4 main words that, to me, that's tefillah, in tefillah 101, which is todah, thank you, bevakasha, please, slicha, sorry, and hallelujah, praise, or how wonderful. I don't think it's only to me. I mean, I've learned this, right? But in a way that kids can relate to that. And I sing one of my new songs there, and that's fun. After that, we have Shavuot coming up. So I think I'm going to focus, I'm not 100% sure, but on one of the most beloved quotes from the Torah, the love your neighbor as you love yourself. And I also weave midrashim and stories in this, going to the kotel. One of my buddies, Leo, he's embodying the one that a kid that doesn't know how to pray, so he prays with the alphabet, with
Mm-hmm.
the alphabet, and it's a great chance, a great opportunity to share the alphabet with the kids. So it's everything, trying to make it as magic and as nutritious. Again, I love that word. It's like, just by Shavuot, we're about to celebrate Shavuot, and we compare the Torah with milk, right? With the most the nutrient that babies need to strive to survive to start. So yeah, I really like that concept.
Okay. Um, where where do you see Torchon going from here?
So this changed the game a little bit, this whole video thing. So I'm trying actually to figure that out. I'm working a lot by myself, so it's very important to me to get the input of mentors, people I respect a lot, colleagues, also parents, because once this is over, I don't know how, God willing, it will be tomorrow, but it looks like we might need to adjust for a little longer. So by then, I think we will have to see where we are in terms of videos. But one of the things that I really want to go back to is the theater and being able to bring kids, not only to bring theater to them, which is great, but to bring them to a theater venue and to experience the lights and the magic and this special place that in Buenos Aires, for example, there's a lot of children's theater and it's wonderful. In Miami, it's harder to find, not impossible, but definitely not as available. So that's one of the things that I was trying to change. Um, and I do it with the Jewish content because that, it comes from my guts. But I believe all children's theater, it's very special. It's very important when it's well done, which is in many, many cases. It's just wonderful and it opens so much. Arts can reach your heart in a very, very wondrous way. So I also think that's a gift that it's good for children to discover and to experience.
Very true. Is there anything you'd like to add before we wrap up?
Well, I would love for everybody to get in touch. You can subscribe to our TorahTron channel on YouTube. And if you go to TorahTron.com, you can join our mailing list to learn about all things that we do. I would love to hear from everyone's feedback and invite you to check out the Shabbat Treasure, whether I just did a storytelling of that. So even if you don't have the book or it's still online both in Spanish and in English, so you can experience that. And I want to wish everyone at home a good week and a good Shabbat, to be safe and to be there for each other, to keep the high spirit up, and especially to those lovely children who are now at home. And I don't know, I always try to remember that this too shall pass. And until then, we have to do our best. Every day we have to do our best.
Right. One last question. What inspires you behind the lyrics of some of these songs?
Oh, David, before we wrap up, I really want to thank you for this interview. I don't want to forget that. So I don't know where you're going to place it in the interview, but thank you so much. And radio, now video radio, it's a great way of communicating. And I don't know, I felt really comfortable with this interview. So I want to thank you.
Thank you.
And I wish you tons of success with this because I think it's a very noble enterprise.
Thank you.
So behind the lyrics, what's the inspiration? It depends. Usually they are personal, unless I'm talking about the character. So there are two types of songs that I create. One are the personal ones, not for a show, and there are some songs for a show. When I create songs for a show, whether it's with the music or it's a parody, I step into the character's point of view. When I was doing some of the shows back in Argentina, which were for a slightly older audience, it was like for the whole family. So again, the layers. For instance, there was a song for Esav. We were doing Big Brother style, the show. It was who was going to be kicked out of the tent, not of the house. And he had a moment where he would express, I would like to give voices to characters who might not have a voice in the Torah, or you need to go to the Midrashim or to other explanations. And he would complain who's the firstborn in the Torah, the one who was actually born first, or mama's boy. And he was going through his lineage of father, and everyone was the young one who continued the tradition. So he was, I guess, he was trying to give us his point of view. Same with Leah. And there's a midrash that we're talking about the matriarchs, that when Lavan, his father, wants her to marry Jacob, and Jacob doesn't know because he wants to marry the sister Rachel. There's a midrash that says that Leah knew. No, sorry, that Rachel knew. And that Rachel and Jacob had a secret sign that way because they suspected that Laban was going to mess things up. And I gave the voice to Rachel saying, if I do this, if I don't present the sign and Jacob knows that I'm not the one who's going to be married, my sister will be humiliated. So it's about the love between sisters. So that's an inspiration for lyrics. There are some other songs that I write that are inspired by psalms or tefillot or things that happen to me. In the Shabbat Treasure album, the last song, it's a bonus track. It's not part of the show. It's actually even not for younger kids, although they're welcome to hear it. But it's a reversed Modeani, and it's called Rabba Emunatecha. And it's because when we say Modeani lefanecha, the first thing that we say when we wake up, which is thank you, God, for returning my soul. The last part is Rabba Emunatecha, which translates as big is your faith. And one asks, what do you mean big is your faith? Shouldn't it be big is my faith in you, God, that I'm talking to? And no, big is God's faith in each one of us that gives us the opportunity to return with our soul one more day. So because, right, now it's because I have in my reverse modernity, not only because I say thank you, and that's why I know that big is your faith, it's because you have all this great faith in me. I know that the lyrics go, I believe in you, you believe in me, and I believe in you, believing in me. I believe in you, I believe in me. I'm ready for this day. I will do my best. I wake up and say, Modani. So because of your Rabbi Munatech, of your great faith, I say Modani. I say thank you, God, for this day.
Wow. That's amazing.
Thank you. So I invite all of you also to explore. I think I'm very lucky. I always say that because among my friends and colleagues, there are lots of wonderful artists and creators, and this being confined inspired us to share so much. But I guess that's true for everybody. We are all created in God's image, and God is the greater creator, the greatest creative being. So I encourage everybody to take this time, however you can, to reconnect and to try something different, maybe.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time, Evelyn. It was a pleasure having you and getting to know about you and TorahTron. And best of luck with all your endeavors.
Thank you, David. Same to you. Same to your radio. Wow, to have a whole radio, that's quite something that you're starting. And I wish you much bracha, much blessings.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a good week and a good Shabbos.
A good week and a good Shabbat Shalom to you too. Bye.